Welcome back to my Colorado Mountain Garden and Homestead. And today I wanted to talk to you a little bit about preserving fresh dill because a lot of people don't realize what you're hearing on the internet is wrong. You don't want to put water in it. So I took some of my dill off because I'm going to be making some potato salad later this week. And I may prune even more off because I'm also going to be making tzatziki. But I just did my plant. I cut it off, and then you're going to leave a little bit of the stems on here so you can see. And after I get this in the jar, then we'll talk about other ways to preserve it. But this is the best way to preserve it for at least a month. I've had it go as long as 2 months, but usually I use it up before then. And that is to put it in some type of jar and put it in your refrigerator. Now, if you're harvesting this from your garden and you want to clean it off, what you want to do is go in there and lightly spray it off so that it has time to dry, because the biggest fear for dill is moisture, and that's how it degrades. So all I do is I cut my dill, whether this happened to be my plants because they're still inside because it's still cold. But if I had harvested this off of my plants after they went outside, and then I'm just going to move this plate out of the way. And I'm sorry I'm talking fast, but I want to get this back in the fridge. Let's bring my mason jar out here and let me scroll in here. All you're going to do is put it inside of it. It doesn't have to be a mason jar. I find that the wider the jars are, the better. And I'm just going to shake it down here so that most of the stems go down and everything like that. Actually, let's try this again. Let's get some of the longer ones down there first. And it's okay if some don't go in straight up and down, but there we go. And you don't want to bend anything. I mean, you can bend it, but you don't want to break it. And I use a mason jar, and I put the lid on, and you're going to close it up. Just like that. Now, this, I probably could have split this into 2 mason jars, but because I'm going to be using it within a couple days, I'm not worried about as much air. But like I said, moisture is not your friend. So you don't want to wash your dill right before you put it in these jars. You want it to be as dry as possible. So if it's been outside, you want to clean it up because there's dust. Here in the mountains, we get a lot of pine pollen. So if I happen to be harvesting when it's pine pollen season, I just give it a quick rinse. And typically I do that like midday. I rinse it off so it has time to completely dry. Then I go out and I clip off what I want, and then I get it in a mason jar. Now this is going to go in the refrigerator. You'll see many videos out there of people putting their dill in water, or even just you'll see them putting it in their fridge in mason jars like this, but they only cut it as tall as the jar, but they'll put water in the bottom and then put the lid on. Well, that's too much moisture, and all you're going to get is mold inside, but it's just too much moisture for the plant. And when you stick it inside, let's say if you just put it in a glass, if you cut all your dill, put it in the glass, leave it on the counter, or even put that glass with water in it in the refrigerator, all of this stuff is going to start, wilting very quickly. So if you put it inside a jar like this, I'm just going to tell you, you're going to probably at least get a month. I've gotten 2, and I was surprised. Just put it in the refrigerator. whenever you need it, you take out what you need. And this is for the fronds. If you're going to be pickling and stuff like that, a lot of people like those big blooms and stuff like that for pickling. I've usually just gone out and cut off from my plant what I needed when I was pickling, when I was doing that. So I can't answer that. I only put the fronds in the refrigerator. Now, other ways to preserve dill are you can dry it, you can freeze it, and what I normally do is take off as much of the stem as possible. I'll stick that on a piece of parchment paper, and you can do several layers at a time, and then I'll freeze it like that, and it'll be flat. I think the frozen still tastes a little bit better than the dried. It's still, you're just going to crumble it up and stick it in your recipe, because as soon as that thaws, it's going to be wilty. So you want to get it cut up and everything like that while it's frozen. I don't freeze my dill that much anymore. Some people put it in a ice cube tray with water, but then you have to drain off all the water, let it melt, let it drain off. So it's still going to be slimy and gross. So I would rather use dried at that time. I don't use the dehydrator as much anymore on herbs because I have a freeze dryer. So I freeze dry a lot. But during the summer, I typically use everything fresh. So I'll cut what I'll need. So I'll use this up and then I'll go back and cut my plant again. And this is the fern leaf dill. Some people call it dwarf fern leaf. It's fern leaf dill. And as long as you keep it cut back, then it's not going to flower. Now, there's a certain spot, and I know there's about 1 billion YouTube videos out there that are going to tell you exactly how to do that. And basically, your plants are going to be, when the fronds come off, they're going to come off at a V. So you're going to cut all the way down that stem to right at that V. And you're just going to cut it off. And then it'll start throwing out more fronds. Another stem and more fronds. So if you keep it cut back, I wouldn't cut the entire plant at once. I would harvest what you need. So harvest the taller ones, leave the shorter ones, because by the time you're ready for your next batch, you can come back and those shorter ones will be taller. Now, this dill does not grow very tall. About 2 to 2.5 feet is max. I think right now mine's at about 1.5 feet. But it's only in a 1-gallon container. And as soon as I move these to 3, the dill I only put in 3-gallon containers now that I'm growing the fern leaf dill and not like Ducat, and can't remember the other one that's popular out there. But I use mine more for fresh on fish or tzatziki or whatever, those types of things, versus pickling anymore. I'm not a big pickler, only because we just don't eat enough. And if I'm making pickles, for instance, I like them to be crisp. And yeah, you can buy pickle crisp, but it's not the same as just doing like a refrigerator pickle, and those don't last very long, and we don't eat enough pickles. So if I make a batch, I just make a small batch, and we might cut them up and have them on sandwiches or burgers or whatever. But that's what I do. If you have questions, just ask. And again, you're going to find probably 0 videos out there, or at least very few, if you can find them, that show this method. They all talk about putting it in water. Some of them talk about putting salt, preserving them in salt. Salt is an enemy of a plant, so I really don't see how, if I put some kind of wet salt in here, how that's going to keep it. And I think what they're thinking is that if you don't dissolve the salt will hold the moisture in it. But there's really no reason to do that when you do it this way. I hope you're having a wonderful day. Happy Memorial Day. Thank you for all those people who have served both right now and in the past for protecting our country. Happy gardening.